Hello, and welcome to the Commercial Vehicle Business Network podcast. I'm your host, Steve Henning, and today we're going to spend a few minutes talking about a recent virtual event that focused on the commercial vehicle space. And one of the people at that event was my guest, Candy McCollum, and Candy is the manager of business development for Convoy.com. Candy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Wonderful to be here always.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, as always. And maybe for people that might not be as familiar with Convoy.com, might be a good place to start. If you would just share with the audience, what is Convoy, maybe the history of it, whatever you think is appropriate, just to make sure that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, sure. So Convoy is a searchable marketplace for new and used ready-to-work trucks. So it was built and powered by Work Truck Solutions to make it easier for those people that are out there looking for vehicles to buy. The Convoy listings, they provide essential information, Steve, for the commercial buyers. First, structured, searchable marketplace. And when I say that, I mean, it includes those detailed configurations, right, for the upfit. So I think I know you've heard me say it several times, but it gives that, just say you're looking for a box truck, right? And you go there, that's a big range in the work truck world. So we just tried to build a marketplace to make it easier for people to find those things that they need. There's a big difference when you need a 16-foot, right? Big difference if you need roll-up doors or swing doors, right? So that's Convoy. And not only do we have the listings, but we have the resource center. So people can go and learn more about different body manufacturers. They can learn more about vocations and types of vehicles or new products that are in their vocation. And of course, New Propel, you'll probably see or hear a lot about that because that's our attention to the market and the need to have a space for the advanced alt fuels.
I love it. That's great. The resource center, I think, is particularly important, especially as you talked about advanced fuels. I feel like we hear it almost every day in the news, the media, and so forth. Clearly, it's important, but I also believe that a lot of people, myself included, we don't know enough. So if there's a place for us to go to read some more, to get ourselves educated, I think that's a fantastic thing. So I applaud the effort with that, certainly.
Yeah, and sometimes, Steve, I wonder, will we ever know enough because it's changing so fast? What we thought we knew might have already changed, right?
Yeah, you bet. That's a really good point too, and that's why it's so important to always stay current on what's happening, because what you knew yesterday might be different today. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Now let's move over to the event. So as I mentioned at the top, there was a recent virtual event called the Commercial Vehicle Business Summit, and it's actually an event that's hosted twice per year, hosted by Work Truck Solutions in the spring and the fall. So the most recent one was hosted just a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to maybe highlight a few of the different sessions. And one we'll start with is a session that you were a panelist on, and it was really a powerhouse session of women in the industry, which I think is kind of unique because, like it or not, the commercial vehicle space in many regards is male dominated, or has been historically. So the fact that it was a session with 4 women across the industry was pretty cool. I like that a lot. And it was hosted by Lauren Fletcher from Bobbit, Work Truck Magazine. And Lauren has a lot of knowledge in the space. And I think it was Dania Rich Spencer from Escalon and Nicole Combs from Mitsubishi HC Capital as well. So, and what a great panel. I would imagine you were pretty pumped and excited to be part of that one. Yes?
Yes, it was super exciting. Well, just one, for everything that you just said, who was on there, right? And their unique thoughts or experiences that can bring to that. But the empowering change is so huge because, touching on the technology, right? As it changes, it's changing so fast. And I think the driver behind change starts with ourselves, right? The empowerment and knowing that we have to change, or reinvent ourselves. I heard someone say that a couple of different times during the sessions, that it's not the same as what they were doing. Just a lot of things that it's changing fast, and we can't do what we did yesterday. We got to look for new things, and strong session.
Yeah, I would agree. And what you just alluded to. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, so the title of that session was Dots in Motion, Empowering Change. And that was really the theme of that specific session and what Candy and others were speaking about. For that one specifically, Candy, was there anything that your fellow panelists touched on, beyond what you just said, hey, you have to evolve and change. What you were doing yesterday may not be what you're going to be doing tomorrow. Anything else that really stood out to you from your fellow panelists in that session?
I think from something that stood out to me was a little bit maybe not empowering, but to see how people got to where they are today, right? Coming through and working in different parts, whether the same organization or different, and having that foundation helps enable that change. And also, I think it helps serve your customer, or whoever your end user is going to help serve that better. And especially hearing like Nicole talk about her ability to connect the customer with someone she knew. I think that our space is so much, and always will be, no matter the technology, relationship built, and the importance of networking, and just the importance of these summits in general. Because even if you look at the playlist, right, and you see those people, I attended an event and they spoke last year, right? Or I know them personally and I talk to them on the regular. I really feel that there's so much things packed into those summits that could be helpful, that those maybe you're familiar with are probably going to bring something different at that summit than they probably would if they were meeting with you on a monthly basis.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you hit it right on the head. The commercial vehicle space, it's all about relationships. And the fact that we have technology, it seems to me that we should use the technology to enhance the business relationships and personal relationships we have with people in the space, and really even outside the space. But one of the things I like in particular about the Commercial Vehicle Business Summit is there are some networking opportunities put into the schedule, so to speak. And I always get so much out of that because I get to meet people that I've not been introduced to before, and hear about either their company or what they're specifically doing, and share ideas. And I think that's a big part of it. And, virtual or in person, a big part of it is networking and interacting with those people and hearing from them what they're doing. What are their insights? Because if anybody thinks they know it all, they're very, very likely wrong.
Yeah, and the networking thing, Steve, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's fun, because you're sitting there. I know that you've said it's like speed dating, but you're sitting there like, oh gosh, it's counting down, like you're connected with someone. You're like, oh, and then boom, they're on your screen, and it's just, you're right. It's just connecting and learning how they fit in it, or maybe why they even came, or what they're looking to learn.
Right. Yeah, it's exciting, a little nerve-wracking maybe, but it's kind of fun. You get to meet somebody that you've never met before, and you have no background on them. So it's a clean slate. Kind of neat. I like it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple of the other sessions as well here real quick, just in case anybody is interested in what they were all about. So I know it kicked off with a commercial vehicle outlook, or commercial vehicle market outlook. And that was hosted by Catherine Schifferly and I believe it was Greg Brink from JD Power. I always find those interesting, and I think many people do, based on the number of folks that make sure that they're there for that very first session, just to hear, okay, what is the outlook? What is the expectation going forward for the next 6 months, 12 months, few years? Do you have the same feeling there?
Yeah, I think it kind of sets the tone, right? Because I especially feel like in the last maybe 3 years, it's been that we're just a couple of months at a time, right? Like we think we tried to set the long-term 2-year goal, and then we're looking at 12 years, 6 months. And I feel like that most of us in the space have been readjusting every 45 days, right?
You are
So
not wrong.
I think that it's most people are tuning in and be like, okay, so what does this say? I read this
Mhm.
last week. What is this going to say?
Yeah.
Because it's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, look at the panel. Look at Catherine and look at just the knowledge that's there of what has been, who they've connected with, and the dots
Mhm.
that they have connected and what they are bringing to the table. I think it's very exciting, and some things that that was shared in the kickoff about the just the tools that are out there.
Mhm.
It's definitely moving fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you just said really made a good point, or drove home a good point for me, and that is, I remember the CV Market Outlook. Oh gosh, a year and a half ago, and at that point, all of the talk in the general population and media, if you will, is at that point was all about, here's what's going to happen with EVs, and it's accelerating, and EV adoption, and et cetera, et cetera. And I can distinctly remember in one of those sessions, it was almost okay, it's good to have that perspective and maybe ambition, but it's also good to have a bit of a reality check, and let's look at what the adoption is currently, and let's look at some of the data. And the reality was, it's probably going to be slower than people predict for X, Y, and Z reasons. And lo and behold, a year, 18 months later, it's slowed down considerably. And it's also not just all about EVs, but it's, let's look at other alt fuel as different options and opportunities as well. So.
Sure. And I think also one big thing about the summit, and I heard consistently throughout, was being transparent and leaning on each other for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I always take away or think a big plus to that, Steve, is it just helps you reduce those blind sites or identify barriers that you,
right.
And I think with maybe some things that we looked at a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
we might have, there were some barriers that if we had identified, or maybe we didn't give enough weight to that, or how that would affect the next dot or the next dot.
Yep. Really good point, Candy. Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk about what's frequently one of my favorite sessions, and that is Jim Press. And many people in this business know who Jim Press is, know his background and so forth. And he's just, such a delight to listen to. He's so knowledgeable. But one of the sessions I always look forward to with the Commercial Vehicle Business Summit is his fireside chat. Typically it's on day 2, and on the panel, he will frequently have people from the actual dealerships and talk to them about, let's call it real world stuff, right? What's really happening in the dealership environment. In this session, most recently, he had Dan Bryan from Reichert and Norm Gilbert from AutoNation Memphis, along with Adam Keene from Allied Trucks and Dave Nemirovsky from Holman. Really cool panel. And like I say, I always look forward to it because it's just so interesting to hear something we might work on from a let's see what kind of solutions we can provide and tools and so forth, but to hear how things are actually working and what they're doing with those tools, and hear ideas about new stuff that they're trying. I love it. Again, I don't know if you have a similar takeaway from that session specifically, but it's one that I always look forward to and make darn sure that I attend that one.
Steve, you know that I do. You know that I'd give it a big heart, right? So that is my heart, because that's where the rubber meets the road, is with the dealer, right? So, we can talk or say how things are going to be, right?
Yep.
But until it gets there, do we see how things are going to be?
Right.
Because to a lot of end users, that's their point of contact, right? So the dealer is so focused on that end user, and they're taking in all that feedback. They're seeing a lot of times what these people's business looks like, right?
Yeah.
They, trust me when I tell you, they get to hear what it's like when a vehicle is down, right? And what the actual needs are. So I don't think any business can pivot and recover, adapt to change as quick as a dealership, because they're always having to, think on their feet and change to the market before sometimes there's tools available for them. Right. They have to figure a way. So never, ever take that group out of the session, because I think we all can learn from that. It's brilliant minds. They hold so much in their head that they don't even realize is valuable.
Yes. And it's neat to hear some of the things they're doing, maybe without tools initially.
Yes.
And then to take that idea and say, okay, what opportunity is there to maybe build some tools to help them execute on that even more efficiently? And I think those interchanges of ideas, that's where a lot of the ultimate solution sets come from in any business, but especially in ours. And you said it, in a dealership world, you have to innovate regularly because you're coming up with, challenges. You're trying to help your customers. And just because you may not have a tool today to help them, you still need to help them. So that's where it sometimes starts. And then the exchange of ideas, suddenly, you're down the path of building something really slick to help your partner at a dealership who's helping their partners and their customers in the business world. So it's definitely an ecosystem, and very much. And maybe that's the segue to the theme overall for the event, was connecting the dots. And, I think what you and I just talked about a moment ago, those are different dots, and those are the dots that we help each other connect.
Because a lot of times, Steve, they have to adjust to environmental things or things in their environment before, we might not pick up on or be aware of it. Or it's one thing to read about, hey, this is happening. Yeah. And then it's another thing to feel that impact and having to adapt. So I really think that it's one of the strong connections is having that, and that feedback, and finding partners that you can work with that will help you.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Honestly, no matter the business, we're talking about the commercial vehicle space today, but no matter the business, it's connecting with others in the space and trying to figure out solutions that are beneficial to everyone. A win-win is much better than a win-lose every day in my book.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Really enjoyed spending a few minutes talking about, not only Convoy.com, but also the Commercial Vehicle Business Summit. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to either attend or didn't get a chance to attend every session, we'll also provide a link for you to click out to the playlist so you can watch any session you might have missed. Candy, thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes, thank you.